we'll go with adding the exogenous variables, right? Previously, as we saw, we were able to complete the forecast. We were able to actually infer predictions using Nixla, but what we saw was that all these spikes that we were not able to capture the trend, right? So you got the broader trend, but we were not able to get the spikes correctly, right? And this is what we will focus on, right? So one of the first variables I want to add are CPI and employment trade because they kind of cover the macroeconomic situation of the data points. So yeah, I get these two data points along with date, then I merge these exogenous variables, both the training set and also the test set. The reason being is that we also need these variables in the test set to be able to predict or will do forecast for the time period that we are interested in, right? So we add both of the variables to both the training and the test sets, right? As a next step, we can train the model, right? So yeah, right now that we have trained the model, we also prepare to pass these two columns like CPI and employment rate to the as an exogenous result of the test set. This is where this exercise is. It's happening. And yeah, so we run the forecast with both the test set and also passing the exogenous variables along with these variables, these data points on the variables. We also have something called levels, which is basically a parameter to not just the point in time, aka point forecast, but also forecasts with confidence levels. So or bounded levels, right? So basically 80 and 90 basically says that 80% of the forecast cases are between the range. So in this data set, we can see that we have a point in time forecast like previously, but we also have high 80 and low 80, right? Basically, what we're trying to say is that 80% of the actuals are within the forecasts between these two ranges. And as we can see, these are very fairly large. So the data seems to be fluctuating quite a bit. So yeah, like for the sake of this exercise at this point in time, I'll only be focusing on the high and low 80 part of it. So yeah, like we make the plot. This is what it looks like. Similar to the previous case, current and focus still don't capture the spikes very well, and while they broadly get the trend, the spikes are still not being captured. But one extra, I suppose, we have added here is the confidence interval, right? So the gray part of the forecast is the confidence interval. This basically shows us how wide our 80 percentile forecast for high and low look like, right? So we are basically not necessarily saying 80 percentile, but that 80% of actuals will be lying in that gray region. And that does seem to be happening. But the actual sales, sometimes me seems to be closer to the lower part of this 85th prediction and sometimes on the higher part. And which also gives us an idea is that maybe by adding more of these exogenous variables, we might be able to at least reduce the range or the distribution of this gray part, right? We ideally wanted to be much closer to actuals so that we can confident of estimating accurately. But at least at this point in time, we know that while we are doing a lot of things by the book, which is adding some of these exogenous variables, also using an off the shelf forecasting tool, we are still very far off from a very good forecast, right?